On the show today, a legend from the MPNFL makes a comeback on the weekend at the ripe old age of 50. He joins us for a chat down memory lane. Chelsea show their premiership contenders in second division by outlasting Kooringal. The debate rolls on about the future structure of the Mornington Peninsula Football Netball League. And Rye lose their fourth game in a row, and Edith Vale Aspendale clinch a vital win to stay in the top three in first division. Plus we'll have our teams of the week as Blackers gets heat for his Division 2 senior side selections each week. As usual, another big show, so let's rip straight into it. Great to have your company for the GameFace Footy Show, and what a big week it has been in football. We've got a competition legend that has returned to the MPNFL on the weekend, Simon Goosey, who, as we mentioned, is going to be on our Memory Lane segment a little bit later, and Chris Holcomb and Tony Blackford, as we say, welcome to you.
Thank you, Dan.
Unbelievable that the Goose at 50, I mean, we know what a great player he's been over the years, he's pulled the boots on.
Played with him for many years. It doesn't surprise me, mate. He's always trying to get his head back in there, but he sprinted out on the ground and within about 30 seconds kicked the first goal, I think, and then he got wrapped around a pole, and yeah, same old Goose, mate.
Now, what was he like as a coach and as a player, Chris, having played with him for so long?
You were a young guy back then, Chris, weren't you? Like you were playing Stingrays when he first came to...
Yeah, so I had a taste of him when I first got to the club, and was lucky enough to be involved, and then went away and played a lot of footy. Then when I came back, Goose was still there, and they were halfway through that massive run that they had. I think it was 8 top 3 finishes in 9 years, 4 flags in that. And it's just
Did you play any of those 4?
Yeah, played in 2 of those 4.
Yeah.
2001 I got back to the club, so it was just a fantastic time. We were all close mates from Mornington. There was only a couple that were outside, and Goose knew what strings to pull. He knew not to go too hard on some, he knew to have a crack at some others, and we just all mixed really well, and it was very enjoyable to be around.
I mean, you've been a coach, and you too, Tony. It's all about knowing the characteristics of players. I mean, that is an art form, isn't it, to know how to get the best out of someone. Someone is okay with a spray. I mean, Brian Lake of the Bulldogs was one that liked to spray, but there are a lot that don't like it. You've just got to work that out, don't you?
And Dan, like at a footy club, you've got so many different personalities. As a coach, you just need to get everyone on the same page and pulling in the same direction.
Yeah, 100%. We had a lot of different characters.
And every club does.
Yeah, that's
Chris,
right.
And that's what makes a great footy club.
And I think he did a great job in being able to just head us in the one direction, basically.
Now, Mornington had a great culture because they won a lot of premierships. And talking of culture, we had a lovely day down at Chelsea. We went down and interviewed a lot of the Kooringal people, and Brendan Dunn's one of those, who you know very well from your days at Mornington. And what Kooringal have done is they've got a cultural manager, and Brendan Dunn has got that role. Now, he's back playing as well. He's played 2 games. He sort of, I think, is playing out of desperation because, like most clubs in the middle of winter, they've got a lot of injuries. But Brendan's there as cultural manager, and I asked him on the weekend what that role's all about. Now, culture manager, it's a new term in sport. What actually is a culture manager?
Yeah, so it's a lot of stuff I probably didn't get time to do when I was coaching. So when I was coaching, my big belief was people first, tactics second, all that sort of stuff. So it's broad. It goes over the netballers as well and the women footballers. I do welfare as part of it. I run leadership groups for different age groups. So we've got our middle tier, older tier and younger tier. We talk to the committee about our goal setting and what we stand for, and that helps us make decisions. Local footy now have so many people involved in the club. Like by the time you add netball, women's football and everything, you've got over 200 families involved. Just having someone other than the coaches that they can go to if they're feeling a bit down or they need a little bit of help outside of just playing.
Yes.
So that's very much my role. So let the coaches coach and I'll help with everything else. And just making sure everyone's sort of enjoying their time at the club.
Do you think a lot of clubs will be doing that, Tom?
I don't know, mate. I think it's good and all that sort of stuff, but other clubs probably don't have
the resources,
to do that. So one thing about Brendan Dunn, when I was at the Frankston Dolphins with Brett Lovett, Brendan played, we went down to Cardinia Park, and this is when Steve Johnson was on the outer at Geelong. Dunny played on the great Steve Johnson.
How did he go?
He did really well. I think he kept him to minimal He did a really good job on him that day. So Dunny's football ability, he's had a really good football background.
I think with Dunny too, Kringle were just really keen to get him back involved in the club because he's such a great person to have around. He wasn't ready to get back into the coaching scene, and they sort of found that niche for him.
Position for him.
And it's perfect because it fits his personality. He's great with people, and he's able to bring guys together. And now that they've got him back there,
it's just like Glenn from GameFace finding a job just to get me up and about for a while.
Exactly,
you know?
and my good self too.
Yeah.
And he's
So he's
done a
helped
great
us
job.
out, you
Yes.
know?
Well, Glenn, for those that
I was
don't
on
know, Glenn Carter is our boss, and he's a Kringle person as well. So
He's helped us out along the way.
But Brendan Dunn playing, do you think it's the right move? I mean, he sort of
he gives them a lot of experience.
Was fobbing it off a bit and said, he wasn't sure how long it would be for. But again, it's because of all the injuries. But he'll give them experience, even though it wasn't enough to get them over the line on the weekend.
And he really helps set them up. And in his voice and his constructive voice will really help them out.
Div 2, you're able to probably have that one extra where it probably doesn't cover the ground, but smart. I think he's probably in the same vein as, say, Ricky Johnson at Dramana in the fact that he gets behind the ball. He's not covering a great amount of ground, but the setup and the voice that he gives you is just, you can't put a
knows where to
on
go.
it.
Yeah, can read the play, which
exactly.
is such an important part
Certainly
of it.
Certainly is,
Now, Chelsea kicked accurately, 9-4-58, Bywater kicked 4, and it was a good day for the forwards in second division. Many of them had big days, all those in contention to win the goal kicking.
And to get back into my team of the year, or team of the week, Dan.
Well, we'll talk about that a bit later. I believe you've been absolutely smashed.
I
know you don't look at Facebook, and you don't look at Twitter, and you don't look at Instagram, because I don't think you even know what they are, or you don't look at your emails, because Bernie looks at all of that. But I've been told that your team of the week was so heavily criticised that I was thinking of replacing you this week. But because I love you, I'm going to give you another opportunity.
Yeah, I'm off the hook at the moment. I'm going all right. I just sit in the background.
You are going beautifully.
You're taking all the heat, Tone. Thanks for that.
I mean, all these players are playing well every week.
That's right, they are.
So we'll talk about that.
Do you think Chelsea, I mean, obviously they're a bit more accurate, but I mean, Kringle had a lot out. They're not far away, Kringle, are they?
No, but we thought last week that Chelsea at home would get the job done in a close one. And we were spot on, Dan. I
think it was like the YC Sereno game from last week, how they were missing a lot of players but got close. I think it gives them a bit of confidence that they've got all those players to come back in come September time. They'll have a decent crack at it.
And the final 5 locked in Division 2. It's interesting that our great mate, Mr. Moore, Josh, not here because he is ill, and his team have ironically lost 4 in a row. Since we started the footy show, they haven't won.
No. Look, he's lucky he's not here. We probably would have been dipping into him a bit. But look, you got to feel for him.
They would have been disappointed with that in the weekend.
You got to feel for him. Yeah, no, it's a bad one to drop that, and to have your season sort of get put down after that sort of loss. No wonder he's sick.
So Dan, Red Hill are on 26 points.
Yes.
They're in 5th spot. Langwarren on 18 points. So, there's a 2-point bracket there, or 8-point bracket, 2 games, but there's a huge amount of percentage too. So really, Langwarren are 3 games behind.
Well, Red Hill have got the second best percentage in the competition.
They've got a very good
150, and Dramana's got the best at 164. We'll look at Division 2 in greater detail a bit later, but is it disappointing, Chris, so far out that the final 5 seems locked in Division 2?
I think because it is to an extent, because as people from the outside watching in, that you want everything close and exciting and all that sort of thing, but hats off to the teams in the top 5 who've done the work early, and they'll get the benefit later.
And great news too, guys, because the AFL Southeast CEO John Anderson will be on the show next week, and there's so much happening in the league. You just get the impression there are more changes afoot. They wanted, or he certainly wanted, a 3rd division with the Cefnal teams. I mean, that issue's been done and dusted and gone now, but I still reckon there might be a 3rd division next year.
I've always pumped up a 3rd division, Dan. I've always
but not with the Cefnal team.
Not with the Cefnal, because I think that there's enough clubs from Sorrento up to Mordialloc in that bracket and that band that we can get a 3rd tier structured competition happening.
Except you'd wear Cranbourne. And you would, Chris, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
but you've got Devon Meadows in that bracket.
Yeah.
And you've got Pearsdale in that bracket. So
and Cranbourne too.
Well, they would be one that would be looking to come into our competition.
If you were making the decision, Tony, would you have them in our competition?
I would only have them in our competition if we could get enough commitment from some lesser clubs to fill a 3rd tiered structured competition. Because I wouldn't want Cranbourne coming in and there being a bye.
You agree with that, Chris?
Yeah, no, definitely. That 3 tiers, I think, is popular for everyone at the moment. We discussed it last week, and as we said, they've got credits in the bank because what they've done this year, they've made the competitions a lot more even. So why not roll and have another crack at it next year?
We discussed it last week. So what would you have? You'd have 10 first,
10 second,
10 second,
and 10 third, or 8 third.
Well, what you would do is 10, 10, and then first year you might only be able to get 8 sides, Dan.
Yeah.
Right? So if you could get 8 sides, then they play each other twice.
Yes.
And because 2 years ago, the PN division were only playing 16 rounds, Dan. So you could play each other twice. That would only make 14, but you'd get it up to 16 games. And then if there was teams to come into that competition, you would make sure... See, some teams might have a clause that they have to stay in Southern or the amateurs, and they mightn't be able to get out of it. I'm not too sure.
Well, there's some 4th division teams that I think would be handy in our competition. And we look at the team that's on top of the ladder in 4th division, and that is Karen Patterson Lakes and the Frankston Dolphins, who've just become a senior team. They're a very successful junior team.
Yeah, but they wouldn't be able to compete in 2nd division.
No.
But they'd be able to compete in 3rd division.
This is why I like the amateur system. When you come in, as South Mornington have done, you start at the bottom.
Yep.
D4.
Yeah.
And then you work your way up if you win. I just love the amateur competition. I reckon it's absolutely fantastic. So it'll be great to have John on the program next week, and he'll be our special guest. Talking of special guests, we've got an absolute beauty coming back next. He's the Goose, Simon Goosey, one of the greats of the Mornington Peninsula Football League. Pencon Garden Supplies and Mini Mix Concrete is a family-owned business that has served the Mornington Peninsula magnificently for more than 50 years. For all your garden and building supplies, concrete, soil, sand and mulch, visit Bart and the team at 58 Peninsula Avenue Rye or call 5985 2252 or 5985 2998. St Andrews Brewery, using the finest ingredients, ensuring each beer is full of flavour and character. Our special guest on Memory Lane on the GameFace Footy Show today really needs no introduction, but we'll give him one anyway, and a big one. He's a legend in the old Mornington, the PN Football Netball League, playing over 300 games for the Mornington Bulldogs and kicking a staggering total of more than 1,700 goals with them, with 100 goals a season virtually a living certainty every year. His record as a coach is second to none as well. He took the Dogs to 8 grand finals in 9 years for 4 flags during the late 1990s into the early stages of this century. He started his magnificent footy journey playing for Richmond under-19s and played in a losing grand final in 1987 to Dennis Pagan's powerful North Melbourne combination. He spent a year on Geelong's list and was third in the league's reserves goal kicking in the early 1990s. He had a 3-year stint at Frankston and the VFA in the mid-1990s before embarking on that incredible run with Mornington. His coaching career also includes a developmental stint in the AFL with the Western Bulldogs, 5 years as coach of Frankston between 2010 and 2014, and 3 years at Cranbourne as coach in the SEFNL, where he guided them to the 2016 Premiership. He has now returned to his beloved Mornington this year at the age of 50 to coach the Bulldogs. It's a football CV that is second to none, and his name, of course, is Simon Goosey. There you go, one of the all-time greats has joined us in the Mornington Peninsula Football League, Simon Goosey, as we said.
A couple of good cheeks there, mate.
Yeah,
wasn't
there was
there?
100 goals, of course. One of the many times he kicked 100 goals, Tone, and he had a few blokes out on the ground. It had a pretty big day. Simon, great to have you with us on Memory Lane, and it's been a great career.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks, Dan.
And it hasn't finished yet, has it?
Mate, from a playing side, yes.
What about
Well,
Sunday,
Dad,
mate?
if you see how he walked in, he's just about over, you know.
Well, he did play on the weekend.
I know that, yeah. But he walked in, he hobbled, and I think he woke up at 3 o'clock in Saturday night, and he had to go and get some anti-inflams into him.
Yeah, that's true too. I wouldn't mind Stephen Dank's number. I reckon I might be able to play a couple of more games if Danksy I could get his number.
No regrets, Simon, on your career? It's been a beauty.
No. Look, I'm one that I don't tend to have many regrets or any regrets. Probably my biggest downfall's being impatient. I probably probably
You're talking
should
about
have...
early days?
Yeah,
at
early
an AFL
days.
club?
Yeah, I probably was a bit impatient at Geelong. I probably should have stayed that one more year.
Did Blighty like you?
Yeah, Blighty used to have a bit to do with me until I got suspended. He hated blokes that got suspended. So,
Really?
What did you get suspended for over there?
Well, it was actually a jumper punch, the goal umpire. I wish we had trial by video.
You only get a fine these days.
Yeah,
Simon,
I know.
don't you?
Yeah. If we could go back in time, if they had video trial by video, I would have been right.
Let's go back to when you first started. You didn't grow up on the Mornington Peninsula, did you, mate? You grew up around Bayswater Way, and then you were 18 or 19 before you came down to the Peninsula?
Yeah, 19, moved down to Mornington when was it, the end of 1987. We moved down there and then ended up at Mornington.
You just played a year at Richmond, 1 or 2 years?
2 years at Richmond in reserves and under-19s.
So Simon, after Richmond, you came to the Mornington Peninsula.
Yeah.
How did you get involved with Mornington Football Club?
I actually rang Mornington up. Back then we didn't have mobile phones, so I had to look their number up, I think, in the phone book back then. Jesus,
Who was the president back then? Dale Whelan?
Dale Whelan, yeah. Rang him up.
Is he the father of Petter and Dale themselves?
No, he's not the father. Not the grandfather.
Not the grandfather.
Uncle.
Uncle.
No, he's the father of Nicky Whelan, who's famous.
The actress.
Actress, yes.
She's in Neighbours for a while.
Yes, yeah, that's correct. And just rang him up, and it was lucky I got there because he hung up on me. So he thought I was someone was
a prank
having
call,
him
was
on.
he?
Yeah, someone.
I thought you were a prank caller.
Yeah.
So did you think, well, I've had enough of this. I'm going to look for another club? Because there are a lot of clubs in the Mornington Peninsula.
One reason I wanted to play at Mornington, I moved into the area. So a footy club's a great place to get to know people too. Yeah. So that was one reason why I was pretty keen to join Mornington Football Club. And we eventually got around to meeting up, and the rest is history.
You stayed a couple of years at Mornington before going to Geelong, did you?
Yeah. My first year at Mornington, I think the last practice match I broke my leg, and I think I only played the last 3 to 4 games, and then played the next year and ended up being lucky enough to be drafted to Geelong. Played the year there under Malcolm Blight, and Dennis Davey was the reserve coach, and learned a lot off Blighty. He was a good man.
So back then they had Brownless, Lindner, Gary Ablett,
Excel,
and
Gavin Excel,
and Stoneham.
Yeah, a couple of handy.
I think Jeff Miles came across too from.
No, he wasn't there then.
Yet.
No, he wasn't there then. So they had a couple of handy forwards.
What was Gazza like? Did he speak to you much?
Yeah, Gazza. I used to love. Not many of the blokes paired up with him at training, and I used to love pairing up with him because he had nothing to lose. But he didn't train too much. He was I'll never forget, he used to train, we used to train Monday, Wednesday, Friday, no matter what day we played. So if we played Saturday, the Friday was a real sharp night. If we played Sunday, trained a little bit more. Monday was generally a recovery night. And Gazza could only train Monday and Friday because he was too sore. He said. And I'll never forget, back then they had state football, 1990. We were playing Victoria were playing Western Australia, and all the boys were joking because Gaz was in the squad. They said, "Oh mate, Gaz couldn't possibly play. He can't even train Wednesday. How could he play on a Tuesday night and butter up for another game?" Well, Gaz played that day, and I think he kicked 7 goals, 4 best on the ground. So he was just unbelievable. He's probably the best player that I'd say that I've seen in football.
When you were having the one-on-one duels with him and you see him do things, were you thinking to yourself, how does he do that?
Yeah, he just had, I liken it to a 2-stroke motorcycle. When we did sprints, you'd be going, they'd say go, and you'd be going, and you'd think, geez, I am going, and then they'd go, and Gazza just had a power band. He'd just move in the top gear, and he had speed, he had strength, he had everything.
So 1990 was the year after he kicked 8 in a grand final, wasn't it?
9.
He kicked 9 in a losing grand final.
Yeah. Yeah, he was definitely different. Like, people just treated him like he got anything he wanted down at Geelong.
Yeah.
Was that wrong?
No, like, probably not. Like, we...
Probably.
I remember when we had jumper presentation at a shopping mall, and you know, everyone was sick of waiting, and Gaz is signing autographs. So we just said to the bus driver, "Let's go." So we went back to the thing, and then as we're getting out, the coppers or the police rolled up with, and Gazza gets out. "Thanks, boys. No worries." So, you know, an escort back to the football ground.
So 1 year at Geelong, Simon. In 1991, did you come back to Mornington?
Yeah. Look, I spoke to a few clubs about. I was interested in coaching. I was only 21, 22, and I came back to Mornington as assistant coach with David Dunbar.
Oh yeah, David.
So
Interesting character.
There was a
Gers.
bit
You still see David Dunbar around the place.
No.
In regard to AFL teams, don't you?
Yeah, with his
he's
hard
in
hats
opposition.
on, and
Yes.
I don't know if he's doing anything now, but I know
last
him
he
and
was-
Clarko had a few run-ins because
And he was the last. He was doing some stuff for Brisbane, I think.
He was.
yeah, doing a bit of recruiting. I
Recruiting.
think. Yeah.
When I was doing some broadcasting a couple of years ago, I'd see him on the plane. I'm thinking, there's no hard hat or whatever, and you try and say g'day, and he was always trying to be incognito. Always.
Yeah, that was Dave.
He had an interesting day down at Mornington one day, mate.
Well, at 3/4 time,
yeah,
wasn't
that
it?
was interesting.
Simon,
And
is
he didn't like. I suppose he didn't coach Mornington after that, so
No.
we could
What
just say.
happened?
Well, a lady was mouthing off, and I think Dave pushed her or belted her. Is that right?
Yeah, it went something like that. Yeah.
And you took over the next week.
Oh, well, there was a bit of me and actually Biff Dermott, Craig Dermott.
Oh,
I
did
played at Port
Yeah,
Melbourne.
because he was playing too. So we were like co-coaches that year.
he? So 92, you went to the Dolphins?
Yeah, 92 and
yeah.
93.
There were no more aspirations for AFL at that stage.
Well, back then, if I look at what it's like now and having coached the Dolphins and seen the boys come through, I was, believe it or not, I was a skinny kid. So back when I was...
all were,
yeah, I know. We all were. But...
We were.
Yeah, we were. But I was...
Weren't we, Glenn?
I was very skinny, and I was probably more ready when I was 24 than I was when I got taken at 21.
But don't you think that
So many kids like that, though.
there's kids like that now, Simon?
Well, yeah, and like I look at Mark Bagley, who
Yeah.
I had the pleasure to coach. He got. I
but-
remember he said to me, "Mate, I'm 24," and you know they Essendon took him at 24, turning 25.
They've taken a few Kingston boys, the boys.
Yeah, so they get the opportunity more today. Back then, you know, they didn't tend to go like for too many older players unless you're playing in the state league.
And you had 3 years there at Frankston. Did you feel you were ready to coach then?
Yeah, look, I was always interested in coaching, but if I go back a step, I think my first year at Mornington when I broke my leg, I ended up coaching the under-15s because they needed a coach halfway through the season. So I got a taste for it then. When I was under-19s, I was deputy vice, and I used to work with Doug. Doug Searle was a very tactical coach, and you know we used to do a few tactics and that. So I was always interested in it, and yeah, I suppose that's why I went to Frankston. I wanted to go to a higher level, learn some more, and then try and come back and do it my way.
So you come back to Mornington 97, 98?
95.
95.
Because Jack Holt was coaching, so
Yes.
I come on as his assistant, and then I took over from Jack
In 96.
96.
97, Goose, did you win back-to-back that year?
No, we lost. I remember, and look, we recruited pretty well. We got big Ty Esler
And Danny Crichton?
and
Was Danny with
no, Danny.
Ty Esler was on AFL.
Yeah.
Ty was.
Kreitz was there in 96,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, 96. Danny played in the premiership,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's a funny thing. If things don't go your way, like we had a good side. Ty was probably the best ruckman, but probably he wasn't the greatest influence.
Was he after after-match entertainment a bit too much for some of the players?
You probably could say he didn't mind a beverage or two, and he probably had a few too many at times. And I think, by memory, that they rolled up to him and Glenn Kendall rolled up very late to the 97 team meeting, and for a grand final.
Were you thinking, I have to make a decision?
No, I knew that. I knew what they'd been doing. So
You still played them?
Oh, look, it was on the day. So, like, I don't know if they had a big Saturday night, but yeah, I suppose
it might have been a big Friday and Saturday night.
I suppose, yeah, a lot of blokes made a lot of sacrifices, and I'm not saying they didn't, but yeah, to roll up late to a team meeting.
Yeah.
It helped, Simon. You had a lot of good players that you were kicking 100 goals every single year. Do you get annoyed when you look at football clubs and they're so inaccurate in all levels of footy that you're averaging 6 goals a game? For you, it was like money for jam, able to kick a goal. Do you feel that there's enough practice? Certainly not at AFL level, there's not, but at local level, enough practice for goal kicking? And when you played, how much practice did you put in?
Yeah, look, I put a lot of practice in. When I was a young bloke, I remember Richmond under 19s. I'd kick 8-6, 8-7. So I wasn't always a great or accurate. I worked on it. I worked on it a lot. I think the last 12 years or something, it was around the 80% mark. And I look at it, well, a point's a turnover anyway. So if you're a forward, you want to be kicking goals, and it's probably something we don't work on enough.
You often don't think about the fact that the points are turnover.
No, point gives it straight back to the opposition. So only 3 ways you can win the ball. That's one of them. You know, from a point. So I think that we don't work on it, but it's easily fixed too. It's easily fixed.
Simon, you had a great era at Mornington. You won 4 flags there.
Yeah, it was good. I'm big on history, and I remember going to Mornington and looking at the history on the board. On the wall, and Mornington's a very old club, and as you know, the history runs deep with the team that sunk off Mornington and everything. You know, you only have to look back, and I don't think anyone had ever played 2 flags at Mornington. We had between decades we'd won premierships, and that was one thing that reading that, I thought, geez, I'd love to be part of the success of Mornington. Yeah.
It's fantastic to catch up with Simon Goosey, one of the all-time greats of the Mornington Peninsula Football League. We'll be back with more shortly on the GameFace Footy Show. You First Real Estate. Call 5925 9278 or visit youfirstrealestate.com.au. Great to have you on the GameFace Footy Show, and this is our Memory Lane segment, and what a segment it is with one of the all-time greats of the Mornington Peninsula Football League in Simon Goosey, who kicked 100 goals, like shelling peas, as my late great grandmother used to say when it came to having babies. It was like shelling peas, and Simon Goosey did it just about every single year when he played with Mornington. Simon, it just became a habit, didn't it? I mean, were you expecting to kick 100 goals every year, and did you put pressure on yourself to do that?
I always liked to. I thought if I was a full forward and playing my role, I had to kick 100 goals. I always had that in the back of my mind that, you know, for me to play my role for the team, I've got to kick 100 goals.
Hey Simon, from Mornington, you finished up at Mornington, and then did you play 3 years at Dramana?
Yes,
and
yes.
Took on an assistant role. Was that when you went and did an assistant role on opposition analysis with Rocket? Was that right?
Yeah. I was lucky enough to jag a role with the Western Bulldogs and do the opposition, and
great bloke, right?
And terrific bloke. And I suppose I was ready to retire from football, and it just happened. There's not many AFL games that are on at 2:00 on Saturday afternoon, and Dramana had rang me, and look, I thought, and I went to Mornington, and I said, I think it's only fair that the new coach can come in without the old coach around. So I went down and played. I think the first season 14 games. There was only a few games that I missed with Dramana with the AFL commitments.
Which was a great feeling, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, like I enjoyed it, and I'd love, nothing.
Your time at Dramana was fantastic, and for Dramana at the time to get somebody like yourself and Stevie Hamill, it really helped grow their club from cellar dwellers up the ladder, didn't it?
Look, they were a terrific club. They had a lot of hard workers around the club. And
great committee.
Yeah, great
and
committee.
Danny Mongan was instigator in all of that, wasn't he?
Yeah, he really drove that club. So I really enjoyed my time down there. And
then after that, did you go to the Dolphins? Was that when you got the senior gig down there?
Yeah, I spent a year down at with Port Melbourne.
Port Melbourne as an assistant under Gary Ayres.
Easy, and then
another great man.
Yeah, and I ended up playing a few games with Mornington that year, and when we didn't have a Saturday commitment, which was Dennis Matthews got me back to the club, and which I appreciated because I ended up playing my 300th game. And then I coached the Dolphins for 5 years.
Yeah, which was wonderful, Simon. And not only you probably lacked a few wins there, but the development that you had on players who could go from VFL football to AFL football was outstanding.
Yeah, if I look back, probably as well as the premierships, I really enjoyed that time. Like we were under-resourced and underfunded, like you wouldn't believe, and to I suppose when I went to the club, there wasn't too many that wanted to come to the club, and once we got a few players drafted, we had all the young fellas that wanted to come to us, which was good, and I think we ended up getting 8 drafted in those 5 years.
Yeah, which was terrific.
Is that, you think, your greatest legacy in your time at Frankston to get those players drafted?
One thing I looked at is I thought, geez, no one wants to come to the club. How can we do that? We haven't got money, and I thought the only way is we've got to get
an opportunity.
Yeah, kids drafted. Kids drafted, and I remember I sat at 5 clubs and begged them to take Michael Hibberd. I remember sitting with Alan Richardson in the Carlton Theatre, and we're going through his vision, and the recruiters told me why they won't take him, and
rather than
I thought,
why.
And
Isn't
5 clubs.
What did Richo think? Was he in favour?
No, he really liked him. Alan Richardson. He said he actually rang me because I had a bit of time with him at the Bulldogs. He was looking after the forwards and the development, and I did a bit of work with him down there. And he said he just rang me up. He said, "Hey Goose, I want you to come in and talk about Michael Hibberd to the recruiters because I like him."
So then, after 5 years at the Dolphins, Simon, is that when you went to Cranbourne?
Yeah, it was a funny thing because I was actually I nearly never was coaching that year. I was in interviews with Essendon until, they didn't make up their mind till the end of October, and Mark Neal ended up getting a development head of development job that I went for, and and in the end I wasn't going to do nothing, and then Cranbourne rang me 2 weeks before Christmas because it's most of the local clubs fill their coaching roles early, and you don't really pick up a role that close to Christmas, and they just happen to part ways with their coach, and they rang me up, and I thought,
so it was a right.
Yeah, because I was really missing it. I love the coaching. I love teaching the kids.
Interaction and
and footy clubs are a great place to be around. You have the banter and all that, and even going to training's a great place to be.
Did you spend 3 years at Cranbourne?
Yes, and 3 years.
Runners up twice, and you got a premiership in your second year.
We lost the premiership the first year. We went through the season. We were probably favourites, and then. I suppose we had more senior players in that list, and I felt that we went back to old habits. We just kicked along down the line, and Berwick were too good for us. And then
how much did it hurt?
Second year, it hurt a bit because we'd played the best footy and throughout the year. And the next year was probably more pleasing because we lost a lot of senior players, and we did it. We did it with the kids. So I think 4 under-19s played, and we won seniors and reserves. 4 under-19s played in the senior premiership, and 4 under-19s played in the reserve premiership. So, from a coaching point of view, that was a real pleasing thing to do because Berwick had the side on paper and the more experience.
It doesn't always. And then after another year at Cranbourne, you end up finding yourself back at home at Mornington, mate.
Yeah. Look. I'm only 5 minutes down the road, so it's good to be back. It's my home club, and a lot of history there.
A lot of history.
Would you, just before we finish, would you go somewhere else to coach, or do you think this would be your last coaching move, or would you like to do a development role as you got very close to achieving at Essendon?
Yeah, well, that'd be the ideal,
ultimate
but sometimes you've just got to either know someone or be in the right place at the right time.
Well, Simon, it's been fantastic to chat to you. Now, just before we go, we have been promoting that John Anderson, the AFL CEO for the South East region, is joining us on the show next week. What do you think we should be asking him? What do you think is the most important issue for footy in this region at the moment?
I think we should look at the under-19s and under-17s. To me, I care about them because we want to see the best.
Just to interrupt there, Simon, I think we're under the AFL banner. Why aren't we having an under-18 competition at local football when they've got an AFL competition of under-18s?
Well, that's what I think. I think what we need is we need to go back to the 16s, 18s, because young men, let's face it, under-17s young men, they don't want to be playing Sunday afternoon.
No.
Or get a Friday night competition for them. But John Anderson, I've had a fair bit to do with him. He always asks opinions. I think he's great for the competition. He wants what's
got
best.
A lot of experience.
Yeah, and he generally cares about the competition because the conversations I've had with him, he does ask your opinions, and he seeks to get people's opinions too. So he wants what's best. As a league, we've got to grow. It'd be great to get three divisions. If Cranbourne come in and a few of the other sides, South Mornington, the Frankston Dolphins, and
that's the only way we
Sky.
can do it, Simon, is to have a three-tiered structured competition,
mate, it would be
and
fantastic.
get the lesser sides in Division 3, right? And so until they can find their feet, and even at this stage, the Tyabs and the Crib Points can go into maybe third division.
Well, it gives them an opportunity then. It gives everyone an opportunity to grow.
It doesn't matter what competition you're playing. All they want to see, Dan, is winning.
Competitive. Be a competitive competition. And you look at the best competitions around the state, they have relegation. So, if we can get a few more clubs, that'd be fantastic.
And have you got a favourite Rodney Eade spray? A clean one though, Simon. I used to love getting stuck into Brian Harris, aka Brian Lake, didn't you?
Yeah, in the team meetings he did. But I suppose there's not too many things I can say on camera, Dan. But Rodney, he was great in the fact that, he used to always say one lunatic in the box, and
he did say that all the time. Yeah.
And you used to see him in the box. Yeah. And he used to go off like anyone I've ever heard. But what I'll give him is when he was down at the group, he was really positive. So he wasn't angry. He let his frustrations out in the box, and then he was down and really positive.
And he always sat in the left-hand corner because he was deaf in his left ear. So no one, obviously, he couldn't hear anyone. So he always sat in the corner in the same spot.
Yeah, and one day we lost by a point to Geelong, and I'll never forget it. I was behind him, and I tried to get out the way, and my chair fell down, and I fell down in front of the door, and he couldn't get out. I had to get the big chair out the way and myself out the way. And all he wanted to do was get out there and get down.
He was one of the greats, as were you, Simon, and still are. It's great having you back in the competition, back at the Mornington Footy Club, and you're going great guns with him, and we really love having a chat to you about memory lane. Not a better person to talk about a wonderful career in the Mornington Peninsula Football League. Good to have Simon Goosey with us. Back in a second on the GameFace Footy Show, and we're going to be talking about what happened in second division on the weekend. A very interesting round of footy. The second division goal kickers and the seniors, they all had good days. The leading goal kickers, or most of them anyway, Jesse Murphy, Langwarren 6 to go to 43 in front of Curtis Bywater of Chelsea. He booted 4, he's 37. And Theo Doroidis of Devon Meadows, as they came from the clouds to beat Rye, kicked 6. He's also on 31, 1 in front of the very consistent Johnston of Dramana, who booted 3 on the weekend in the Tigers' big victory over Crib Point. In the reserves, Scott Sterling of Rye stays on 25, didn't kick any on the weekend. Nor did Richard Mathers of Coringal, he's on 25. Andrew Silver of Chelsea's on 18. Luke Clark of Chelsea booted 1 to go to 16. And Craig Hunter of Devon Meadows 1 to move to 15. In the under-19s, Shannon Reid of Langwarrin, a big day. He kicked 5, he's on 31. 1 in front of Logan Sanford of Red Hill on 30. It's a battle between those two at the moment. Nathan Allen of Langwarrin also kicked 5 for the Kangaroos. He's 24. Ben Toby of Dramana joins him on 24 with 2. Ryan McNamara stays on 24. And Jai Treep, who's been playing a lot of senior footy for Coringal in recent weeks, he's still on 23, having not played in the under-19s on the weekend for the Bulls. Second division best players in the seniors, Brendan Doyle of Tyab, 5 points, he's 31. Ben Sedgwick of Somerville, who's just played 200 games, 6 to go to 29. Billy Quickly of Dramana, 2 to go to 29. 2 and ahead of Ryde, he's on 28. Terry Wheeler of Dramana, 6 points to also move to 28. The reserves best, Scott Sterling of Ryde, also going well in the goal kicking, 5. He's on 33, 2 in front of Dane Layden Kozakis of Dramana on 31, also picked up 5 points on the weekend. Another 5-pointer for Cody Weir of Hastings to go to 28. Lucas Licht of Devon Meadows is 26. Callum Barnes, Somerville, 4 points to move to 24. And Joel Bateman was pointless on the weekend for Dramana, remaining on 24. In the under-19s, it still appears to be one-way traffic, although his lead at the top was cut a little bit on the weekend. Tristan Giuliano of Chelsea, 4 points, he's 49. Lockie Cox Tyab, 4 points, 41. Will Hose also tied, 3 points to move to 35. Nathan McLean of Devon Meadows is on 34, picked up 4 points on the weekend. And Caleb Watkins of Hastings, a 5-pointer, and he's on 32.
Websites, videos, Google marketing, SEO. What do you need for your business? Call the team at Chill, they really know their stuff.
Another fascinating round in Division 2. We spoke about it a bit earlier that we think the top 5 is now settled with Rye, and we'll get to that game shortly, losing its 4th game in a row. Again, a poor last quarter, beaten by Devon Meadows, who stormed home after Tyab stormed over the top of them last week. But we'll start with the match of the round, 2nd against 3rd. They've now changed positions on the ladder, Chris and Tony, with Chelsea moving to 2nd, Coringal moving to 3rd. But we also touched on the fact Coringal have a lot of injuries at the moment. Chelsea just slightly more efficient up forward, 13 scoring shots to 20, and they got the chocolates by 3 points.
Yeah, and especially at home, Chris. I mean, we thought that they would get the job done. It was always going to be a close game. The conditions really made for a close game, and it was the side that was going to make the most of their opportunities when they went forward, Dan. And obviously Chelsea were able to do that. Yeah,
well, obviously Coringal had a lot more scoring shots than what Chelsea did. We talked about how they had a few out. I don't think that game is going to have a bearing on how they face each other in September, which they will to an extent. So it's good for Chelsea to get the 4 points, but I don't think it has a bearing on the rest of the season.
I think it could be a dress rehearsal for the qualifying final, couldn't it? Dramana's a game clear and a fair percentage ahead of them. Red Hill have got the 2nd best percentage and they're in 5th, but well, they're a game behind both Chelsea and Coringal at the moment, so I would have, and Hastings are going pretty well too.
They're going all right, Hastings. With it, you talk about injuries. Hastings have copped the big injury stick. You know, to key players, Sean Foster. They had their key recruit from Boland went down in the first game of the year, so they were counting big time on him to get them through. Yeah,
definitely. And like we said, anything can happen in the second half of the year, and there'll be a few positional changes, but you'd think they'd both be there at the
I think they all would play each other again. I know that Red Hill would be playing Dramana, Hastings. They've got to play Hastings this week, and then they've got to play Chelsea and Coringal, both at Red Hill, and on that big open space. I think that Red Hill they wouldn't be upsets, but they'd be going favourites, especially at the big Red Hill ground.
I'm looking forward to getting out to Red Hill to get out to some of those wineries. I've been to a couple before, but obviously go and watch the footy, but beautiful part of the world now.
Well, when you get to those wineries, Dan, it's all right to have 1 or 2, but you can't be having too many more than that.
I don't drink much time.
No.
I just
give yourself enough time this time, mate.
Yeah, give yourself. Thank you very much, Chris. Yeah, well, you've got to tell me where to go. Remember, that's your job.
Dan, they've also got the maze up there too.
You have got the maze. Yeah.
No, you do get yourself.
For those that didn't watch the show last week, I got stuck in the maze trying to get out to our hosts last week, and they really did look after us.
St Andrews.
The St Andrews beach breweries.
You ended up down at Flinders, didn't you?
Yeah, I ended up. Well, yes, I was down as far as Cape Schanck, which I've never been to before, so I can, even though I will never play there because you wouldn't waste Cape Schanck on my poor golfing talent. I've been past it now, so that's a tick off my bucket list. Dramana. I thought at half time, don't tell me the biggest upset of the season, but this is Crip Point at the moment, Chris, isn't it? They can't put 4 quarters together, but they're okay early, and Dramana ran over the top of them to win comfortably.
Yeah, that was another game where it was probably panned out as you would expect. Dramana probably weren't pumping themselves up for the contest and sort of got into cruise control, if you like, and then when they had to, they put them away.
Yeah, especially in that second half. Second half was outstanding.
Yes, and they're looking pretty good. They've only had the one loss, a narrow loss by a goal, and things have fallen into place for the Tigers pretty well as we hit the second half of the season and the business end.
Well, after the other result, they're sort of that game and percentage away from second.
They're at a situation where they could probably rest and manage a couple of their more senior players and older players just to make sure that their bodies are right for the second half of the year.
But everything's gone right for them. They haven't had a big injury toll at all. So if that does hit second half of the year, we'll see how they go.
Now, poor old Josh is ill today. I hope he gets better. And Devon Meadows, well, he may have got ill because of this result on the weekend.
Their fade-outs in the last quarter.
That's been the issue. I mean, they were well up. 3 goals a couple of weeks ago against Somerville. They got blown away in the third quarter last week against Chelsea. They fought back okay. They were well up against Devon Meadows in this game, and Devon Meadows kicked 6 unanswered goals in the final quarter to run over the top of them.
Yeah, come home with the breeze, I would have thought. And
they kicked accurately too at Chelsea.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a big loss, and I think what that does is it closes the gate for Rye and their chances of playing finals this year.
Yeah, they're very disappointing. It's 4 losses in a row for them now, and I mean, Josh would have been, I suppose, banking on playing in the finals. Chris, 4 weeks ago they were 4-2 and sitting pretty, a couple of narrow losses, and they've sort of lost their confidence since, haven't they?
Well, after you see him after the 4-2, he had smile from ear to ear and just really up and about. But that's what the coaching gig's like. They can turn on the drop of a hat, and what's happened?
Look at Wayne Catt, they're unbeaten by CW and haven't won a game.
Yeah, well, exactly, and that's what can happen. Injuries, poor form. Sometimes you don't have much control about what's going on, and poor Josh probably feels that way at the moment. And the bad thing about all that is that it's cost him that shot at the finals. Just a 4-week patch where you don't play good, you're out.
Now, the word I'm getting is that the Lang Warren coaching staff, they saw the footy show last week and heard a comment from Chris Holcomb saying they've been the most disappointing second division side this year, and he just Josh and Blake just played it and played it and played it, got it into the heads of the boys. Now, Tyre were coming off that great come-from-behind win against Devon Meadows. It was a danger game, but Lang Warren 28 again. They were accurate 128, and they destroyed Tyre 6-5-41. And as you said last week, Chris, it's something that they should have been doing a little bit more often, considering the huge junior pool they've got to choose from and the recruits that they've picked up this year.
That's the Lang Warren side that I would have expected going down from the league last year to play in that second division. I would have expected them to be second, third with Coringal, Chelsea really battling it out, because there wasn't any difference between skill and player factor between those three sides.
Chelsea was always a little bit more advanced, would you say, because they were able to push the YCs and the Pines a little bit more consistently than the other two.
Yeah, what's gone wrong there?
Well, look, I'm not a part of that inner sanctum, so I'm not sure. All I said is that I expect more out of them, and that's the kind of result that I would expect. Now, when they come up against the Coringals, Chelsea's, Hastings, Red Hill, second time around, I would expect them to win 2 of those
upsets,
4.
Yeah, and that's what they've got to do, because they, if any side can get into that top bracket, it's got to be Lang Warren, because on the way home, they've got to play those sides in front of them. So but
they've got to get a wriggle on. They can't afford too many slips now.
Well, they can't afford any slips now. And their destiny is in their own hands, Dan.
It is. Jesse Murphy kicked 60 and he still leads the goal kicking on 40. Good win by Lang Warren. Pearsdale, well, they were never really in the hunt against Hastings, who, to me, are the most underrated team in the top 5. We're not really talking a lot about them, but they keep getting the job done, don't they? Dan, last year, when the PN division, Sereno, Frankston and Rosebud all went up, Hastings were the best side left in that competition. They won the flag 2 years ago. They played off in the finals again last year. Their list was what I thought would be a top 3 finish. So you're thinking they're where they should be and they're right in the mix?
Well, I thought that they would have probably been 1 or 2 rungs higher.
Yeah, so do I. Watching Hastings over the last couple of years, we used to have them in a practice game before the season started, and they were really competitive against us. And we had some good sides that we were dishing out there. So it's no surprise that they're in the 5, and I'm with Blackers. I think probably a couple of rungs higher. I would put them, say, at the end of the season.
And the close game, and they've become the close game specialists despite having an awesome percentage. Red Hill got over the line against Somerville, who were accurate. Rolf kicked 5 for Somerville, but Red Hill again just able to find their way home. 26 scoring shots to 18, and probably closed the door on Somerville. Wonderful to catch up with Chris Fawcett, their president, last week. But the Hillmen, they're in the mix too, aren't they?
And, you know, Red Hill's probably been one side that's lost a lot of close games, but they've also won a lot of close games too. So there's always not much in it unless they're playing a real bottom side where their skill and their run and carry can really open up the lesser sides.
Can they win it, or are they just a rung below the top 4?
No. I think that they've got a side that's been really competitive for a long time.
Well, I mean, you know, you
for
them pretty well.
For 4 years, Dan, we've been able to play in the finals the last 4 years, but we've had the likes of Frankston, Rosebud and Sorrento and Hastings all in front of us. So
it's a good effort, very good effort to do that. So an excellent round of footy, but as we say, we think that the top 5 might be settled, but it's not over until the fat lady sings, and she's nowhere near warming her lungs up just yet,
Dan.
So let's do the Division 2 Team of the Week, and as I said a bit
Was
earlier,
there a bit
you've
of
been
RG
smashed.
Have I?
Absolutely smashed. We're going to teach you to use that Facebook yourself, because I want to see your
Do you
reaction.
know what some of the comments have been, Dan? Or
No, I don't know what the comments were. All I know is that people were very critical.
Yeah. But how can they be critical? I mean,
They're keyboard warriors.
I'm reading out a side purely on form each week, and Aaron Paxton has been in outstanding form, so he's in the back pocket.
You know what opinions are, don't you?
Yeah,
Opinions
but
like
backsides.
Yeah.
We've all got one, you know. Adam Kirkwood from Rye is at full back, and Patterson from Langy comes back into the side. So once again, I've got 5 changes. So Patterson comes back into the side for Jai Lloyd from Rye Footy Club. Tyrone Head goes out of the side. He's been in the side for for the whole year so far. But what I've done is I've put Colin McVeigh. His form's been outstanding. I couldn't find any other spot for him, but on the halfback flank. So Colin, and I know Rogash kicked 6 on the weekend and predominantly played up forward, but he started at centre halfback last week in my side, and I'll keep him there.
He can play anywhere.
Well, he can play anywhere, but the forward line's pretty sound. Clark from Chelsea on the other halfback flank. Jocka Mitchell from Red Hills in outstanding form. Gardner from Chelsea stays in the middle, and Wheeler was best on ground for Dramana last week. Michael Burke was named in the best for Coringal, kicked a couple of goals on the half-forward flank. Tommy Baker goes out of the side. He didn't play on the weekend, but Theodorus from Devon Meadows comes in the side and he kicked 6, Dan. So he goes into centre half forward. Hewitt's been in outstanding form from Hastings on the half forward flank. Ben Holmes has been pushed out of full forward, but he goes into the forward pocket, pushes his fellow teammate Ethan Johnson.
He kicked 5, didn't he?
Well, he did. So, but Jesse Murphy, the leading goal kicker, I left him out last week because his form over the last couple of weeks, he'd only kicked 1s and 2s. So he didn't deserve to be in the side, but he comes back in after kicking 6. And Billy Ralph is in, kicked another 5 in the forward pocket. So I think that
great forward line.
I think that forward line speaks for itself. Hogs.
Yep.
Goodall, McGuinness and Nathan Gillis from the Somerville Football Club make up the midfield, and then Ethan Johnson goes to the bench from Dramana. Curtis Bywater comes back in after kicking 4. Brain from Chelsea stays in that side. Jake Mould stays in the side. Billy Quigley and Pryor from Pearsdale. So Lloyd, Baker, John O'Ross, Jake Anderson, who kicked 7 last week. He only bobbed up for 1, but when you got other blokes kicking multiple goals, to stay in the side, he needed to kick a bag full again. And Tyrone Head go out of the side, and Patterson, Bywater, Theodorus, Murphy and Cole McVeigh after some consistent form comes into the side.
I reckon that's the best team you picked. That is a very strong team, Chris, isn't it?
He liked it too. He was up and about it.
He'd be shattered if there's any criticism.
Well, there couldn't be criticism, Dan, surely.
Don't hold back.
Well, you know where to put your criticism or your good comments. We want some good comments as well on our GameFace Team of the Week for Division 2, and Blackers will be back again next week for another Division 2 Team of the Week. We'll take a break, back with more shortly. We'll look at Josh Moore's Under-19 Team of the Week. Chris will read it because Josh is not well after Rye lost their 4th game in a row. Sorry to talk about the war again, Josh. And then we'll also be back to go through our tips for another big round of footy in the Mornington Peninsula Football Netball League. The leading goal kickers in the First Division Seniors, Aaron Edwards, had a pretty quiet day for Pines in their win over Seaford. He kicked 1 to go to 30, 2 in front of Geordie Moncrief, with Mount Eliza having the bye this week. He's on 28. Sorrento also had the bye. Leaper Holke on 23, kicked 2 last week. Trent Dennis Lane at Bond Beach in the narrow loss to Edith Vale Aspendale booted 2. He's on 23. And Jared Grant played for the Frankston Bombers last week and kicked 1. He's on 21. In the reserves, there hasn't been much movement for a while. Michael Chaplin's been playing a lot of senior football for Frankston YCW, but the Stonecats had the bye this week. He remains on 25, 8 ahead of Tom Loney of Seaford on 17, and Jake O'Neill of Edith Vale Aspendale on 12. He kicked 1 on the weekend. The under-19 goal kickers, Sam Sturt, a guest on our show last week, didn't play this weekend, but remains on 25 after 6 for Mount Eliza, who are flying in the under-19s. Sam Hart of Edith Vale Aspendale kicked 1 to be 2 behind Sturt on 23. Tom Wisniewski of Mornington remains on 18, didn't kick any, and Josh O'Toole of Frankston YCW is on 14. The best players in the seniors in Division 1, Sean Downey of Rosebud, 5 points, despite his team's big loss to Mornington. He's 35, 2 in front of his teammate from Rosebud, Greg Bentley. He got injured. He remains on 33. Cole Hutchison will play his 200th game next weekend. He's on 28 after getting 3 points in Frankston YCW's loss last week. Britt O'Hanlon, 1 to go to 27. Paul Scanlon of Pines on 27. And Dylan Howlett, after an outstanding job in restricting Aaron Edwards from Seaford, the defender from the Seaford Tigers, picked up 5 points. He's on 27. In the reserves, Jared Douglas of Bond Beach, 5 to move to 31. Ben Sharman, Frankston Bombers, remains on 31. Luke Black is also on 31 after 5 points last week. He's from Frankston YCW. And Shane Cochran of Bond Beach on 27. In the under-19s, Michael Shearer of Rosebud leads on 30 by 1 from the previous leader, Lyndon Vraka of Seaford, 29. Nick Sakalis Rosebud, 29 after 2 points. Ben Ward, Edith Vale Aspendale, secured 4 to move to 27. And Tom Baker of Frankston Bombers remains on 27. Low Farms, the Australian grower and supplier of rocket, lettuce, spinach and salad mixes.
Hey guys, Brad Sykes here from Syke for Sport. So we've been in the Frankston and Mornington Peninsula region for the last 4 years, starting out as a player at the Frankston Dolphins with my good mate Sammy Fox, and started to get involved with the kids of our region just to try to, effectively get them psyched for sport. And yeah, from there it's grown, and we've worked within school programs and also school holidays. So our aim is to teach kids life skills through sport. Just letting you know about our school holiday program coming up in the July holidays. Looking forward to that with some AFL women and some VFL footballers taking you through the skills of the game. Georgia Walker, the Saints captain, Bridie Kennedy from Carlton, Trent Dennis Lane, obviously a wonderful player for Sydney and St Kilda. People around the area that, like myself, who love the region and developing our youngsters. So open to 5 to 14 year olds, and it's definitely cheaper than childcare. Get them along. Go Syke for Sport.
Well, 3 games in Division 1 to complete round 10, and it was an interesting weekend of football. The results went the way of the teams we thought they would go, although Rosebud and Mornington was expected to be closer than it was, but Mornington won by 51 points. The coach of Mornington, Simon Goosey, with us. And Simon, just about your best performance of the season, but you're an accurate goal kicker. 11.22, that must have nearly done your head in, and I was going to say done your hair in, but you don't have any hair, a bit like me.
Well, it was funny, because on the weekend I wasn't too upset about it, because we really had the ball
pretty windy,
in our forward half, and it was probably a lot easier looking from behind the fence because it was difficult conditions on the weekend, really difficult conditions.
So it made it tough for them to score, didn't it?
Yeah, it just blowed straight across the ground. So, like, it was probably, the pleasing thing was how we went about it, not so much the score, it was how we went about it. Like, we've been putting 3 quarters together and
not just being able to get the job done.
Yeah, the weekend. Look, the weekend was the first time we've had all rotations too. Every game this year we've been down rotations, and most of the games we've been down rotations, two off before half time.
Yeah, so it makes it hard.
It was pleasing. So it was pleasing, and that was probably the most pleasing thing.
I was at that game too. I think the best I've seen in midfield play defensively. I think if you have a look after quarter time, Rosebud scored 3 points. All right, and you've had, what have you had, 4-16 you've kicked. So your midfield pressure was a lot better through on Saturday. I think it helped Greg Bentley going down at half time. They really struggled to find any drive after that, but midfield pressure was good.
Yeah, we've probably been working on that, and probably our midfield, when you look at our midfield, they're all ball getters. It's having that trust to have the one bloke in and trusting him and making sure we get the spread on the outside.
Great even competition though, Simon, isn't it?
It's terrific. That's probably the great thing about what they've done, the restructuring of the league. There's not one game you can go into and say, gee, we've got the 4 points here.
No, you're a former Cranbourne Premiership coach. Do you want them in?
Mate, I'd like to see them in because I think it grows the competition, whether they come in Division 1 or Division 2. But I think the Mornington Peninsula would be great with 3 divisions.
But they could only come in if they can structure a 3rd division, Simon, and get enough sides to come into a 3rd-tiered structured competition next year. If that's the...
I agree. I'd love to see South Mornington go. I think Mornington's a big place now, and you'd like to see them come in, maybe the Frankston Dolphins that are in the Southern League.
And especially the guys that are lesser players that wouldn't get a game at Mornington in their seniors, they can go and play senior football at South Mornington.
Yeah, well, they've got a team now. They're playing in the amateurs, but it would be great because we need more people playing the game. Yeah,
so much that could happen, Dan.
Do you think, Simon, now you can avoid relegation, or that has never been an issue right from the
word? Oh, look, we've never spoke about it. I think if you concentrate on that, you're concentrating on the wrong things. We're just worried about how we want to play, and like we had a faultless pre-season, and it was, I think, the second last practice match since then we had just injury after injury. Yeah. I've never experienced a season like it with so many injuries. Like on the weekend, I think we had nearly a whole side out, 17 out. Like so, that puts pressure on our development side or our twos.
So how do you cope with that as coach?
Oh, well, we're lucky we got a bit of depth.
Especially with people like yourself coming in.
Yeah, look, 2 coaches. Yeah, 2 coaches had to put their hand up instead of being a short blackers, and I know we're too old for it, but sometimes you've just got to do what you have to do.
Sorrento is still the team to beat?
I think Sorrento are the best side we played. Look, I watched them in YCW. I actually went away from that ground and I said, the game, and I said, gee, Sorrento looked good to me in the terms of if you took the scoreboard away, they won enough of the ball, they got enough looks at goals, YC just scored like that every time.
That was round 1,
and I thought they looked really well, looked good that day, even though they got beaten by a fair bit. And when you've got the
great calibre midfield, and then they've got guys up forward who can kick goals.
Yeah,
and that's what you need.
Yeah. You got all your money yet?
No, I haven't got a cent, Dan.
Really?
Got a cent.
That doesn't transpire yet.
No, I haven't got a cent from them, and they only want to pay me half, Dan. And on 2 occasions they've sent me a cheque for half, and on 2 occasions I've sent that back to them because I think as a coach, Dan, that you're employed for 12 months.
Well, you always are 12 months because you can't get a job midway through the season.
Yeah, well, that's the way I see it, Simon, because they say to me, Blackers, you employ people and all that sort of stuff, and if they're not working, then obviously you terminate and they go and find another job. Well, in March, on the 7th of March, I got a phone call from Bernie Barmer, and the next phone call I got from Bernie Barmer was on the 14th of May.
Yeah, but the boys you employ too, they get 2 weeks' notice and they can find another job.
That's right. Well, I can't find another job.
You can't do that in football, can you? When you say you got half, so did you get half of what you owed and then the other half of what you owed, is that your full amount?
No. No, they sent me a cheque and they only want to pay me half, Dan.
Oh, they sent you a cheque of the half and then the other half, if you know what I mean. Is that right?
No, they've sent him half, mate, twice.
Yes.
And he's knocked him back both times.
Okay. So, which is probably fair enough, I think. Although you didn't have a written contract with him, you had a verbal contract.
A verbal, yeah, but I've only ever had a verbal contract, Dan.
Do you think next time you coach, you'll have a written? I mean, if it's in writing, there's nothing
Dan,
even someone like Bernie Barmer can do, being a lawyer.
I've been around for 30 years, Dan, and I've coached for 20, and I've only ever had a handshake agreement. Only ever had a handshake. And I think.
But haven't times changed though, Blackers, a bit?
Oh yeah, but still, your word's your word, Dan. Your word's your word, and yeah. So anyway, we'll see what unfolds with Sereno, and I just hope that, because morally they're obligated to fulfil their contract.
I would have thought.
Yeah.
I would have thought.
And as a coach, you're employed for a minimum of 12 months.
100%.
Let's look at the other two games before we go through Chris's team of the week. Edith Vale got over the line against Bomb Beach. Tight struggle in the end. Bomb Beach played okay. Edith Vale again very inaccurate. They need a big percentage booster, Chris, don't they? That's their issue at the moment because of the fact that they lost those points and lost their percentage.
That might come down to it at the end of the day. I think they'll win enough games still to finish probably top 3. It might come down to it. They still had a lot more scoring shots than what Bomb Beach did at the end of the day. So it was still sort of a little comfortable margin. And they still haven't got their full side on the park yet. So we haven't yet to see Dorr lately when he
What's
comes
happened
back.
to Brett Dorr?
I'm not sure actually. I'll find that out for you next week. But yeah, and Hullett as well. He hasn't been playing lately as well. So there's a couple of key forwards. Bussey's been doing a great job taking their place up forward. He's playing some great footy at the moment. But they still haven't hit their straps yet. So they're still pretty comfortable in what they're doing.
You've been bullish about them all along.
I have, yeah.
Do you think, Simon, it'll be Edith Vale Aspendale Sorrento Grand Final?
Not as an opposition coach, I hope not. There's still a long way to go.
You still harbour aspirations?
Oh, well, there's still a long way to go, so you never say never while there's a chance. We'll just have to wait and see. I think Pines are getting quite a few blokes back. I reckon the competition's that even. That YC have had some injuries. We've had some injuries. If you get hit with injuries, who knows what happens to sides. So, like Sereno...
Sorrento, if they get a few injuries to key players,
depth,
they don't have the depth.
No, because they don't have an under-19 team.
No.
Now, the other match was Pines beating Seaford by 34 points, and Bongetti was best on ground, outstanding. Aaron Edwards had a quiet day, kicking 1 goal. That probably indicates, Chris, that they're going well. I mean, Aaron Edwards, when he has a big day, they're going to win and win easily. But he's not going to have a big day every day, is he?
No, he's not. But Dylan Howlett, who's been playing down back for Seaford, he's been playing great footy, kept him to 1. Then Bongo steps up, obviously, and kicks 3, and he's been down on form at the moment. So, yeah, good sign for Pines that they can spread that around and one have a bad day and one step up.
Tough day to be a forward, though.
Yeah, it was. It always is. And you'd think it'd probably suit Aaron better because he's a smart player and uses his body well. Whereas Bongo's the big, bustling forward. But no, good signs for Pines. Seaford, on the other hand, really struggling away. And I think it'll come down to them and Rosebud for that relegation stake.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting as we now into the second half of the season. Lots to play for. Top 5, not settled yet. Bombers got a bit of work to do, but 5 and 5 with a reasonable percentage. Now, Chris, the all-important team of the week. What sort of feedback did you get last week? It was sort of a half a team, wasn't it?
I actually got a little bit of feedback.
Did you?
I was having a
good,
look
bad, or
last
indifferent?
Not too bad, not too bad. One of them, they sprayed me because I wasn't playing Lockie Street in the forward line. He's only played 2 games in the forward line. But
he'll be in your team every week because you love him. So don't need to worry about that.
No, he's fantastic. So we've made a couple of changes this week. But apart from that, it's all been positive, mate.
Good.
So I'll run through it. From the back line, a new one in this week, Jai Haddock from Mornington. Benny North overholds his spot at full back. Onga's back in the back pocket. Marston from Sereno. Howlett makes his debut from Seaford in the back line. O'Hanlon again in the best for Edith Vale on the other half back flank. James Hallahan, Mitch Hallahan and Sam Monahan from Edith Vale. He's been playing some great footy.
Yeah.
He had that calf injury early. Now he looks like he's run on top of the ground. He's going to be great come September. Half forward, Lockie Street. I did put him in the forward line after I got sprayed. Michael Bussey from Edith Vale. He's in the side this week at centre half forward. Dale Sutton at Frankston. Forward pocket, Aaron Edwards, Jordan Moncrief, Sammy Fox in the forward pocket from Frankston. Ruxa Terrich, Hutchison and Sean Downey at Rosebud. Interchange, Greg Bentley at Rosebud. Fletcher Huswaite makes his first entry. He's playing some great footy at Rosebud. Paul Scanlon, Joel Miller, Jimmy Freeman, and Corey Buchan makes his first entry into the side from Frankston Bombers. So, yeah, a few changes there, mate.
If you have a different view on that, you can get in touch with us on our GameFace Facebook, but make sure you call Chris Holcomb, don't call me. I'm just sending the message. Never shoot the messenger, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Great to have Simon Goosey with us. Simon, good luck for the rest of the season. Mornington's starting to play great footy and they've got a great man in charge of them. We'll be back with more shortly on the GameFace Footy Show.
Thanks, boys.
Pencon Garden Supplies and Mini Mix Concrete is a family-owned business that has served the Mornington Peninsula magnificently for more than 50 years. For all your garden and building supplies, concrete, soil, sand and mulch, visit Bart and the team at 58 Peninsula Avenue Rye or call 5985 2252 or 5985 2998. Good to have you on the GameFace Footy Show. Before we look at the tips for another big weekend of footy in Division 1 and Division 2, Josh Moore, as we've said a few times, we've laboured the point, he's not well. We hope he gets better really soon, back on the show next week. But he has sent in his team of the week for the under-19s.
Sorry to interrupt, but you talk about feedback. You think I've been getting feedback? No wonder Josh isn't here today. The feedback that he's been getting, the under-19 kids, mate, they're all over. Yeah, well, they're all over.
They've been more critical than you.
Yeah, I know.
On him than they've been on you. Yeah. Exactly right.
So I think that's part of the reason why Josh might be.
Now, it's more been the Division 2 than the Division 1, so we'll see what sort of feedback we get for Division 1 under-19. But you've got the team in front of you, Chris. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Chris is just reading the team. Don't shoot the messenger. It's Josh's team.
I wanted to make that clear too. Yes, thanks for clearing that
up.
Okay, Chris. Rightio, let's go. Backline, Vine, Simmons, Douglas. Halfbacks, Smith, Harris, Ingram. Centres are Cox, Bashir, Gorka, Lockie Gorka from Mornington. Half forwards are Hart, Timmy Susevich, Newton. Forwards are Baker, Sturt, Jacobson.
Your boy Sturt.
You love him.
Yeah.
Dan, he was with us, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Last week. Kick 6,
I hope that young kid Green's in there too.
The tackling machine.
Yeah.
Tackling machine. How many times did I say that?
Well, a few, yeah. Let's have a look at the rucks and see. Webster, Breen.
Oh, he's in,
Breen,
He's there.
Yeah.
Ward from Edithvale. And interchange bench is Barry Goonan, Small, Avery, Daff, Colombo. So that's more east side.
That's good.
Now, everyone keeps asking us why there's 6 on the bench. Just more players, isn't it?
Oh, it gives more opportunity, by the end of the year, we'll cut it down to 4, Dan.
We'll do that.
Have to make some tough decisions.
Very tough decisions. Okay, well, we look forward to your feedback during the week for our teams of the week as we go through the tips now for another huge round of footy in Division 2 and Division 1. We'll start with Division 2. Karingal at home to Crib Point. You would think this would be a percentage booster for the Bulls.
Correct. Yeah, no, they'll get over Crib Point. They're really floundering at the moment, Cribby, so this will be a 4 point.
And I think I
just hope they can keep fielding teams every week, which has been their issue.
Yeah, is I think, Dan, it's a lot of sides who are down the bottom of the ladder. Later in the year, their seconds all start to drop off.
They do.
They'll always field a 19s and a senior side, but it's the reserves that really take toll. And you have a look at the Goose last week, mate. Had to make up some numbers.
Well, you did. You did pretty well. I reckon he'll play again.
He will.
Yeah, there's no doubt he'll play again.
I don't think Karingal...
He said he could hardly get out of bed. He was creaking like a door.
He loved it.
I don't think Karingal...
He does love it, doesn't he?
Dan, I don't think Karingal have really hit their straps yet. I think injuries have... they've been winning games. But I don't reckon we've seen them play their best football yet.
No, agree.
Tyab hosting Dramana. Tyab have got, you think, a couple of good performances in them before the end of the year, but probably not against Dramana.
Gee, they've been good though, haven't they, Tyab?
Tyab have been good.
They've been great.
And they'll be really competitive down there, but they won't have the class of what the Dramana will be able to unleash. And Holmes and Ethan Johnson down there will be enough to kick a winning score.
Quigley's having a good year too.
Yeah, he's been good. And so is Wheeler out on that wing, mate. So no wonder they've been regulars.
Yeah.
And the coach, he just controls the troops behind the ball, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's excellent, Ricky.
Frustrates me watching that play. He just commands the field from behind the ball there. And
does he really?
Now the latest coaches, obviously you want to push up and get into the defensive side. They just leave him back there and he just sets up and patrols around. And
got to make him
does
accountable.
Well. Yeah,
got to make him accountable, mate.
Some players are smart enough to, even when you're trying to make him accountable, still good enough to read the play and play as the third man up. You see it in all the...
No, he does it really well, and he's made a living out of it. So
Devon Meadows are the most inconsistent team. We saw their worst against Tyre, we saw their best against Rye and final quarters in recent weeks. Any chance against Chelsea? Is this a slight danger game?
Especially at Devon it is. If it was I think any time Devon play at home, I think that they're a 5-goal better side. When they travel, they don't travel well. And Chelsea, this would be a danger game to them. I think it's going to be a little bit windy again on the weekend, Dan. So, yeah, never say never, but I think Chelsea will have got too much polish.
Well, Devon have got a chance to sort of make a statement in saying that was last week one out of the box because they're beaten by Tyre the week before. Did they get themselves up for one and they'll drop
Plus
away
they
again?
lost a group point too, mate.
Yeah, exactly. So now's a great test for them. Can they go with Chelsea?
Well, if they happen to beat Chelsea, having lost matches to Tyre and Crook Point, they will be the most inconsistent side, most frustrating side in the competition.
Chelsea for me, though.
Chelsea.
Yeah, me too. Rye, hosting Pearcedale, just have to win Rye. No matter. If it's 1 point, it's a win. A win is a win. But they're not travelling all that well. Pearcedale are one of the bottom sides.
And Pearcedale have got a really good midfield. Pryor really dictates what's happening in the centre bounces. Yeah. And I think that if any weakness that Rye have got is probably in their ruck department.
Well, this is Maury's biggest challenge, isn't it? To be able to, and being a coach, to try and turn around a side that's lost 4, down on confidence, how they can do a perfect time at home against a side that's struggling a little bit. So hopefully for Maury's sake, you can find the solution and get a win. So I'll take Rye in this one.
This game could be even. Some of them are at home and are probably a better side at home than they are away, although they did beat Rye away, as we've spoken about. Langwarrin, if Langwarrin, as you say, Chris, are to improve and make a late run for the finals, they've just got to win games like this because it's against a team in a similar position to them on the ladder.
There's not many times I haven't backed Langwarrin this year. That's why I was so disappointed last week. Yeah. But if last week's an example of where they're starting to go, then they'll fix up some of them.
And look, Summy at home are a good side, and last week it was goal for goal, and Red Hill were able to kick the last goal of the game after the siren to take it out a little bit more than 7 points. But,
so they're not far away, Somerville, are they?
Oh, well, no, last week it was a really tight game. And scrappy conditions, though, really windy, and it's going to be... So, you've got Billy Ralph, you've got Luke Rowe down in the forward line of Somerville, and then you've got Murphy, Brown and Albanese, is it?
Yeah, Albanese.
Yeah, so it'll see who can kick and make the most of their opportunities, Dan. I think that Langwarrin, they need to win to stay in contention. Langwarrin for me.
Yeah, I think Langwarrin can just get the job done. Now, the match of the round is Hastings and Red Hill at 4th against 5th. Should be a cracker, boys. At Hastings. At
Hastings, big ground, and Red Hill love playing at the Hastings footy ground. But you look at Hastings, Rogash has been in outstanding form. I think Colin McVeigh's been in great form, and so has Luke Hewitt. So they've got a lot to like. But Jocka Mitchell and Sean Marchetti's been in really good form for Red Hill, who's playing midfield. So has Jake Mould. So he's been consistently in their best players.
So that's second division. Let's look at first division. And the key match in first division, first against second. Now, Sorrento, are they a better team at home than they are away, or just as good away? This game's at Mount Eliza.
No, they're just as good away. I've seen them play a couple of sides away this year, and they're handy on all surfaces. Mount Eliza, I was just talking with Blackers about it. If you're a Mount Eliza supporter or a committeeman or whatever, geez, you're happy with the way they're going this year. If you'd have told me that they'll be sitting second at the halfway mark of the year...
Do you think they'd make the finals at the start of the year?
No.
Finals.
No, I didn't think so.
Didn't you?
No, I didn't think so.
I thought finals. I think, because what happened in the off-season, Dan, they lost some high-end talent that weren't producing during the finals.
Correct.
Would that be right to say?
100%.
Yeah, so they weren't producing when the big games were there. So those guys have gone and parted ways. But what it's done is given young guys opportunities to get more game time, and young kids don't let themselves down. And Troy Shannon's done a wonderful job down there. Early in the year, round 2, Mount Eliza went down to Sorrento by 1 goal.
Yep. They did, and I think if you look at it, the blokes they've brought in some great bookends. Doherty's been playing great footy at full back. Moncrief's in my team of the year so far at full forward. And they're just getting the right mix through that midfield of those young guys you're talking about, and they're enthusiastic. Troy's doing a great job with them. Is it enough to get over Sorrento this week? I wouldn't have thought so.
I think Sorrento, Tapscott would come back in after the bye because he didn't play against YC. Yeah. I think that they'll be nearly at full strength. Chad Harris might be the only one that isn't there, and there's a kid called Dan Stevenson who's back playing in the twos. So I think that Sorrento will probably field their best side.
And Mitch Allahan's just starting to find that level.
Yeah,
He took him a few weeks, but he's really starting
and
to
I think
take
early
the
on he
apart.
might have carried a bit of an injury.
Yep.
Well, against Edithvale Aspendale, he was like the ball in the middle of the
Yeah.
ground.
He is a ball,
He was
mate.
directing traffic.
They call him the pig.
Yeah, I just don't know why he didn't play more AFL footy. I mean, he was good enough.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's all about,
at this stage, that ship has sailed, but I still wouldn't rule it out. There might be an opportunity again down the track for someone with that ball carrying ability. Frankston Bombers host Mornington. To me, this is a bit of a danger game for the Bombers. I still expect them to win at home, but we've had the goose on and Mornington are improving, and he's not ruling them out. He thinks that their best footy is still to come.
Mornington got Rosebud on a good day. Like with Bentley going down, they just stopped. Mornington were a lot better. Frankston got too much to play for. They drop it from Mornington, then goodbye.
They're gone.
Yeah, they are. So
Playing for their
I think,
season, aren't
Dan, the last time that Mornington beat Frankston at Frankston was 1986.
is that the last time they played him there?
Yes.
I thought that's a long time in local footy, and then I thought, hang on, they've had
well, I
about 3
haven't
or
been in
4
the same
different No,
competition.
that's right. Yes, well, you were always going to get me on that because I'm a new boy to
Yeah,
this.
that's right,
But just
man.
give me a couple of weeks and I'll have all the stats, I
Yeah,
reckon.
yeah, I
Couldn't
think-
tell you where the car keys
I
are.
think Mornington are going to be a side that will come home really strongly.
Yeah, they're starting to find
But like
form,
Chris
aren't
said, Frankston cannot afford to lose this game, and but I think that the form that Mornington are in, there could be an upset here. I think Frankston at home should win, but don't be surprised if the Gooses side gets
I'll
home.
take Frankston Bombers. Warwick Miller's out. He's not playing at the moment. They've had the week's rest, so they've got a few of those niggles out of the way. I know Sutts was a bit sore and foxy. I think Frankston will win this one.
How are you splinters? Which way are you going? You didn't really give me an answer.
No, I
did
said that Frankston will win at home, but don't be surprised if there's an upset.
He's sitting on the fence.
Well, he's sitting on the
He's
fence.
sitting on the fence.
Oh, the great man, Batty won't be happy with that.
No, I told him Frankston.
Did you?
Yeah, because you got to stick fat with the bat, and
do
I told
have
you
to
that,
stick
man.
with that. Now, YCW are in a world of pain with all their injuries and players being unavailable, which is good for the club because they're part of VFL lists, which is terrific. So that's a feather in their cap, but they just need to find a way to win. They should beat Seaford, shouldn't they?
With that week off, you'd think that they get a couple back, definitely. There's a few long-termers there, but Seaford, on the other hand, are really struggling. They've got a couple of bright lights in some of the young kids that are playing good footy, but they just don't have the cattle at the moment. So YC will bounce back here.
Round two, Seaford were all over YC,
they were.
weren't they? And at that stage, YC were able to win those close games against Seaford and Mornington after by trailing all day. I think that YC will get the job done, and I think you'll start to see YC starting just to turn the wheel just a little bit.
Seaford had a different side in back then. They had a few VFL players that became unavailable for them after round 2, 3, I think it was, talking to Murph. So they don't have that cattle anymore, so they won't get any YC, I wouldn't think.
Bond Beach at home to Rosebud. Good effort by Bond Beach, as we mentioned, against Edithvale Aspendale. Pushed them the whole way. Rosebud pretty disappointing, losing their best player.
Yeah, I think Mitch Gent coming into the side's been big for him too. They lacked that depth through midfield, so with him coming back through, I think that that's helped them out.
How far is Dylan Jones away?
I'm not too sure. I'll find out.
Did they get another ruckman?
Well, they've got a couple of guys of big size there that they go through, but I mean they've got a lot of pride, that Bond Beach club, so they don't stay down for too long.
Did you see Bentley's injury?
Yes.
Will he not play today?
No, I wouldn't think so. Looking at it, no, and taking away that experience from the midfield, it was putrid for Rosebud. And look, I love Rosebud and what they're doing, and they've got a very young side, but they just lack leadership out in the field after he went down. And if he doesn't get back quickly, it could be a nasty back end of the year for Rosebud.
Yeah,
They might
I think
struggle
Bond
to
Beach,
stay up.
Yeah.
Bond Beach might get on the winners list.
Bond Beach.
Yeah, Bond Beach for me. And another ripper. Two teams well
Is this on
ensconced in
Sunday,
the top
Jack?
5. Yeah, Pines up against Edithvale. Pines at home, the Pythons. And they've won 6 in a row. Edithvale, Aspendale is Chris's favourite team at the moment. Going to be pretty tight, I would have thought.
It's going to be a cracker.
Yeah.
They're going to be a cracker. Edithvale have got the spread. They've got those players on the outside that can really cut you up. Pines, on the other hand, have got those big forwards. So it's really going to be a battle of the midfield, whether Scanlon and Potts can get on top through there, and Hendry, if they're getting enough ball. But at the moment, Edithvale, Monaghan, Clark, Batten, those kind
They've
of
been
guys.
good, haven't
Yeah, they've been very good. So.
And, any news on Brett Dorr?
No, he's been out for a while now, so I'll get my spies in during the week and see.
Would the side
Can they win the flag without him?
it'll be harder for them because
Yes.
he, when I saw him play early, really straightened him up.
He's a big, strong unit, and he can play forward or back. And when he was at the Dolphins, when we played, he was able to play on a big defender,
Yes.
but also we were able to roll him forward.
This is going to be a great game of footy. I'm going to lean toward Edith Vale, but yeah, no, it's going to be a great game.
Yeah, going for Edith Vale just, but wouldn't surprise me if the Pines win. They've certainly got those talented forwards, haven't they?
You've been hanging around him too long. You're sitting on the
midfielders.
fence again, mate, aren't you?
Oh, I always sit on the fence.
Yeah,
I'm
fair
a
enough.
terrible tipster. Could not tip my hat.
What do you know? You
You'll
sit on
get
the
to know
fence?
us.
No,
and
no,
you
no,
go
no.
from-
I think that I like Edith Vale as
Yeah.
a side, and I think that Edith Vale have got the best list apart from YC.
So they haven't got the best list. They've got the second best list.
Second
If they had the best list, it wouldn't be apart from YC, would it?
No. But
So they've got
YC
the
haven't
second
got
best
theirs,
list.
so I'm going for Edith Vale.
I'm
But in a
worried,
great
I'm worried
game.
about that fence. That fence has almost collapsed. Thank you, Tone. You'll be back on the fence again next week. Chris, you'll be back as well. We look forward to
Thank
your
you.
company then. John Anderson joining us on the show next week. We hope you enjoy your footy. What a big weekend of footy we've got coming up in the Mornington Peninsula Football League. Catch you next week.